Let's discuss what a one-day itinerary from Jackson Hole really looks like around the lower loop of Yellowstone. I want to give you my perspective as a longtime guide who's done hundreds of these trips around the lower loop. It is totally doable, but you have to be disciplined. And if you haven't been there before, there's a lot of tricks, right? With parking lots and just decisions that have to be made and timing of Old Faithful and all that. And I honestly don't know how people do it on their own first time in there to do the entire loop and see all those major highlights. But let me try and give you some information and see if it can help you out, okay? So we start at 7 a.m. from Jackson, and it's about 270 miles, covers the whole lower loop, takes around 11 hours. Now, when we leave that early, we just stay disciplined and we do the outer loop of Grand Teton National Park. We take one little leg stretcher at Oxbow Bend as you see this beautiful view. The morning sun coming over, the reflections incredible of Mount Moran. We keep heading north. We'll take a quick restroom break in there before we get up to the gate of Old Faithful, and then we'll go in Old Faithful. Now, you can check apps for the Old Faithful timing, and the NPS has one, Geyser Time has one. We have our office texting us, so when we hit a little cell phone service, we can get service and it'll flash through and we have a safe place to stop. We can see what the predicted time is. One little insider tip for you though, is when you first go into the gate at Yellowstone National Park and the ranger checks your pass, you can look over that ranger's left shoulder. There's gonna be this little whiteboard back there and they typically write the time of the next predicted Old Faithful eruption. They never tell you what that, they never tell you what that whiteboard is, but that's what it is over their left shoulder. They have a time on there and then you can see. And from the gate, you could plan on 55 minutes to Old Faithful from there, give or take. Once you get to West Thumb Geyser Basin, you got to figure it takes 30 minutes to do that 17 miles to Old Faithful at that point. So we'll keep heading north, enjoying, the corridor trees and just the majesty of Yellowstone, and we're going straight to Old Faithful, okay? If we have a little bit of time, we may take a quick little break, we're going to fill in some time as we're going to time out Old Faithful, but there's a lot of places. There's the Continental Divide, there's Kepler Cascade, all that stuff. And then we get to Old Faithful, and that's what we do is we kind of know where the crowds are going to be, so we have a little spot we like to take folks where they're unobstructed, without anybody in front of them to get a great view of Old Faithful. Now, once we see Old Faithful, we do a little cruise around the Old Faithful Inn. Beautiful all-wooden hotel, one of the largest all-wooden hotels in the country, built in 1903. And then we continue on from there. See, I could just keep giving you the tour myself. But anyways, we got to get through this loop, right? So depending on the timing, we'll pack in some more, like we may take a quick stop at Black Sand, we may not some days. No two tours are the same. It's really what's best for the group is what we do. And so if everyone's fit and able, we'll try and do the Grand Prismatic hike, which is one of the highlights, right? But it's not for everybody. It still is a solid hike, so you got to assess the group for that. Now, the best thing to do is if you have a driver, this is what's hard for people on their own to be able to fit all this in one day, is the parking. And Grand Prismatic is a challenge all summer. It is rare that you can roll in there with your group and not spend 15 minutes at the minimum to 15 to 30 minutes trying to find a spot in there. That's a real reality in the middle of summer. And that's where a guide comes in. We roll in, take the guests right up front, drop them off, give them instructions, how to go do the hike and back. Takes them about 45 to 50 minutes. If we can't go with them, or if we can't find a spot quick enough, we'll just wait for them. And they come back down, and we know the timing, and we swoop in and pick them up, and we keep going. They don't have to deal with any of that. They're just straight in and hiking. Now, if we drop them off, we'll get a quick parking spot. We will also go with them to get some great shots, but in reality, it's about facilitating to be able to see as much as you can. So then we continue north and we get into the lower geyser basin. And once we get there, we go to Fountain Paint Pots. We see Silex Spring, the Bubbling Mud, which is always a great highlight and all that. And then we continue on and we do a little lunch break. Now, from the lunch break, we continue on north of Madison Junction up to Norris. Midsummer, it's just not really going to be possible to do Norris Geyser Basin in a one-day tour. The parking lot is packed by 10 o'clock. They have it closed. You have to park on the main road and hike into Norris. And then it's a hike into the basin just to do porcelain. So unless it's, unless you're there early in a multi-day tour and get in that parking lot, but if you're not in that parking lot before 10 a.m., it's really not possible. So from lunch, we'll take a right at Norris and head straight over to Canyon. And then at Canyon, we'll go to Artist Point, of course, take the iconic, beautiful shots of the canyon right there. And then if the timing works out well, we'll also do the brink of the Upper Falls as well. And sometimes you can get a late afternoon rainbow at the brink of the Upper Falls, which is absolutely gorgeous. And then we'll continue south, and that's going to take us through Hayden Valley. Hopefully we get some lucky with some bison and wildlife there. And then we keep continuing south and work our way back into Grand Teton Park and back to Jackson Hole to the hotel. And then, like on this particular day, we got a little lucky with some elk at the end and whatnot. That is what a 270-mile day is like, all the major highlights of Yellowstone. People are so happy. They're stress-free. Dad's not driving. Mom gets all the shots. But hopefully this helps you with your planning as well. Even if you're traveling on your own, you can realize how big this area is and what it really takes to do a one-day tour from Jackson, which is the way, it's a great way to go. Totally doable, but you have to be disciplined. You have to be planned. You have to plan for the unforeseen. So we love to help out with all that. And please give us a follow. Reach out if you have any questions. We're always here to help. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.